I'm the director of IBM's research lab down in the hilltops in San Jose. We're surrounded by cows and coyotes, the occasional rattlesnake. But I will say that the most interesting wildlife is actually the wild ducks that inhabit the halls of the labs. Their job is to actually not only make sure we have the innovations our product pipeline needs, but also to envision the future and work on technologies that we don't even know that we need yet. And I'm therefore very proud to be able to introduce to you tonight one of our past IBM Fellows, Don Eigler. Don started his career in IBM in 1986, a graduate of UC San Diego, after numerous postdocs, including one at Bell Labs. His work is focused always on condensed matter physics, studying materials at the limits, so the smallest dimensions, the lowest temperatures, the most extreme fields. It sounds like it might be very esoteric, but while his work certainly has expanded our knowledge of atomic physics, it also has helped drive the industry's scaling, which has been phenomenal in both storage and devices. If you think back, the world's first disk drive, which was invented at IBM in the 1950s, stored just 5 megabytes, about 2 iTunes songs, and it literally was the size of a Sub-Zero double-wide refrigerator. And now we can literally lose terabytes by dropping a thumb drive between couch cushions. This is the scaling that is enabled by that kind of research. And Don didn't just observe atoms, as was noted, he also manipulated them. In 1989, using a scanning tunneling microscope, which is a technology he actually helped advance quite a bit, he actually must have written what is the most iconic version of the IBM logo. It was IBM written with 35 xenon atoms on an atomically smooth surface. Not a bad accomplishment for only 3 years at the company, and not surprisingly, we made him a fellow in 1993. Needless to say, Don's accomplishments were not only noticed by us, he was named as one of America's top 12 young scientists by Fortune magazine back in 1990. He is now the member of too many academic societies to possibly list, but he also won the Kavli Award in 2010 for nanoscience. I find it particularly appropriate, though, that the honor we're doing tonight is the Visionary Award, because Don Eigler has not only helped us to see what was previously invisible, he's literally helped us visualize what things that were almost inconceivable. He used atoms as a fence to trap electrons on a surface in something he called a quantum corral that allowed us to see for the first time probability density waves that are the heart of quantum mechanics. He discovered the quantum mirage effect and demonstrated a logic architecture based on a molecular cascade. And back to that storage scaling roadmap, the lab in IBM that was his recently showed you can store a bit on a single atom. Ironically, given all of his accomplishments in studying the smallest parts of the world, my first memory of Don was actually seeing him walking down the main hall of Almaden next to a literally gigantic dog. It turns out one of his avocations is actually training service dogs for people with mobility impairments. I learned that although Don succeeded at training service dogs, one of his greatest disappointments was his efforts to apply those same training techniques to his IBM management failed. Although I can tell you from talking to his past management, he certainly tried. So it is no surprise that when Don retired from IBM in 2011, he went on to found the Wetnose Institute for Advanced Pelagic Studies, which is described in his biographical sketch. I think the key part is it's there to isolate scientists from the cacophony of diversionary tactics incorporated by most professional positions. I would expect no less from one of our most celebrated and accomplished wild ducks, so it's my great pleasure to introduce Don Eigler, a recipient of the 2017 Silicon Valley Foreman Visionary Awards.
So bad you're hiding behind me. Good evening, everyone. You know, I was just reflecting on what Jeff said, and I was thinking about one of the proudest moments of my life was when I spelled IBM correctly. Thanks, Jeff, for that introduction. That was really wonderful. Now, I recently read on the web, and I'm sure everybody here knows that if you read it on the web, it is true. I read on the web that the Greek philosopher Pythagoras is attributed to saying that a fool is known by his speech and a wise man by his silence. I was greatly relieved to learn this because It's just an excuse I need to be brief tonight. But I will point out that it also means that any words I express beyond this point are purely for the purpose of establishing my credentials as a fool. All right, at the risk of being earnest, I really do want to express my most sincere appreciation to everybody at the Silicon Valley Forum for the honor that they bestow upon me tonight. It is something which is, in my case, truly heartfelt. Thank you very much. And I also take it as no small honor to be a recipient of this award. I will admit to not only being humbled by the list of the previous recipients of this award, but also being somewhat shocked that I was to be included in that list, a list that contains names like Gordon Moore, Andy Grove, and Bill Gates. When I saw that list, I looked in the mirror and I said, who, me? And I have to tell you that my knees were shaking. So first, let me tell you a little bit why I'm so surprised about being up here tonight. As near as I can tell, I am possibly the first physicist to be a recipient of this award, and I'm definitely the first awardee recognized for a contribution which is not really a contribution to technology or to advancing technology. What I did was a contribution to science. That's a little bit different. But maybe it's not so strange for the Silicon Valley Forum to recognize a scientific accomplishment, and maybe you'll even do that again in the future. I mean, after all, science and technology really do go hand in hand. The pursuit of science is enabled by technology, and technology is built on a foundation of scientific knowledge. Importantly, and more important today than ever before in the past, both science and technology are founded on the notion of verifiable truth. Either an experiment works and can be reproduced, or it can't be reproduced. Either technology works and can be delivered to the marketplace in an economically viable way, or it doesn't. These are experiments that all of us run every day, and we come up with truthful answers. And the great beauty about science and technology is that there's never a debate about alternative facts. In our world, alternative facts simply do not exist. Which brings me to my soapbox. Here comes the soapbox part. You didn't think I was going to stand here and not get on my soapbox, did you? If you think about technology, you can think about technology as kind of a pyramid. There are some base level technologies, more refined technologies, and ultimately there might be something like this. That pyramid of technology has a foundation, and that foundation of technology is scientific knowledge. Without that foundation, we simply would not have this or any other of the technologies that we rely upon and which have contributed in such a beneficial way to our lives and to the lives of everybody on the planet. Now, sadly, every indication is that our society is trending away from public investments in science. The pipeline that has been feeding innovation and the welfare of our nation and the world as a whole is, in my view, slowly getting squeezed off. In my view, this is a scary thing. I think it bodes ill for the long-term welfare of the world. We're going to be fine this year. We're going to be fine the next 5 years. But 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, I'm afraid of stagnation. Stagnation is the enemy of everyone in Silicon Valley. Everyone. Right? We won't have jobs. We won't have the fun that we have. We won't be able to come here to the Silicon Valley Forum and have visionaries. Now, I'm not sure that we can do much to reverse the decline in public funding of science. That battle has been fought for years now. It continues to be fought. I think it's a battle that needs to be fought. But I have to tell you that I'm not particularly hopeful, at least at this point in my life. I would love to be able to tell you something different. Maybe years from now, I will be able to. But let me tell you about something that I found quite heartening. And that is a more recent development, specifically the increasing role of private philanthropy in funding science, something that some of you may be aware of, but maybe many of you are not. And I just want to finish up my talk on that point. I personally find it amazing that individuals, many of whom have really only modest financial resources that they can draw upon, are rising to this challenge and are making their contribution to the progress of science through small-scale philanthropic funding. And of course, there are many who also are doing large-scale philanthropic funding, more now than ever in the past. And as you might expect, Silicon Valley is leading the way. In fact, headquartered here in Palo Alto is the Science Philanthropy Alliance, perhaps something that not too many of you in the room have heard about yet. The Alliance provides advice and learning opportunities for individual philanthropists and foundation staffs on how to support basic research most effectively. And here's the really good thing about it. Here's the really cool thing about it. They do it for free. Well, that's my plug for the evening. I think you can have a pretty clear idea about where I wanted to go with that. It's time to get down off my soapbox and to mind my manners. Once again, I very much want to extend to all of you, and particularly to the Silicon Valley Forum and its board, for providing me with this really wonderful award. Thank you very much.